Hey everybody, I made my own Pantheon. I'm back. So I like to homebrew a lot of things. Pretty much everything. I do design a lot of my own games, which I'll get to that in some other videos, but I like to fix things. I like to make things the way I like them. I designed this sweater. So what I did was I made a bit of a Pantheon. I know you guys can't see that well, it doesn't matter. I'll post a little image of it. But this is just a basic pantheon of gods. It's just a collection of the gods that the people in my setting worship. And I think there's pretty good analogies to real life gods that have been worshipped in the past and either Greek, Roman pantheons that we're familiar with. And we got all this magic in the back. I really liked Theros, the set of magic. Well, Theros, Journey to Nyx, what was the other one? It doesn't matter. And then they're going back to Theros, which I thought was cool. But the gods in that setting I thought were pretty cool. And I kind of wanted to carry that over to my Pantheon. So, like you guys can see in the graphic, there's 15 total gods that are broken down into 5 domains. Now, these domains, it's not really like they're the god of that thing, but what they rule over, what they represent, are those things in different forms. And there's the main ones, you guys can see depicted in the bigger circles in the middle. Those are probably the closest to what that domain is in its purest form, I guess you can say. And the ones on the sides kind of bleed into the others. It is a circle, it is divided, but I see it as a sort of continuum. Like they kind of bleed into each other at a certain point. So in between life and nature, there's its own kind of thing. In between chaos, nature and chaos, there is its own thing. Like they're not opposing each other. Like in magic, you have like the circle of the 5, and obviously the things on the opposites are opposing each other. They're the opposites, but everything in between kind of bleeds into each other. So it's kind of like that. So I'm just gonna go starting at the top and then just go clockwise. So very top we have Danaus, goddess of life and healing. Now I do have a bit of notes on this for myself. They're not really for you guys to see. Not because I don't want to show you guys. It's just I do feel like I need to do a bit more work on it. So I'll probably be doing that in the future and posting that stuff so you guys can see and see how I used it in my campaign, because I'll talk about that at the end. So Danaus, goddess of life and healing. The best thing I can think of is probably Aphrodite, because there are certain temples to Danaus, and this is another thing in my world, is temples are not just like, bam, we go to worship, there's pews, and it's not like a normal church you would see. Temples of Danaus are essentially beauty spas. Like the worship of Danaus is the beautification of one's own self and of other people, and of taking care of that life, youth, and beauty that you have. So that's the goddess Danaus. Most young women will worship her when they're younger, and eventually not really grow out of the worship of Danaus, but either retain it if they really feel like they need to, or just move on to worshiping one of the other gods alongside Danaus. Because in my setting, people usually worship 3 primary ones, and then when times call for it, they'll go to a temple of a different one, or they'll worship another one in case they need help or whatever. So it's not like everybody worships all of these. There's certain ones that get the main focus. Danaus is definitely one of them. And so Danaus... Oh, shoot. Hold on. All right. So Danaus. What I had in my campaign is for every level that your characters gain, I gave them access to devotion to one of the gods. So for each level, you get a new god, max 3. It was 4, but I don't want to do that again. Max 3. And then let's say you start Devotion to Danaus level 1. You don't get, prayers and petition benefits is what you start with. So you start by praying and doing all the normal stuff you would for that one god, in this case Danaus. So basic stuff. You get advantage on non-aggressive charisma checks. Okay. Successfully stabilize a creature as an action. So the followers of Danaus don't even have to roll. They just, I'm going to go stabilize him. Bam. Stabilized. All right, cool. Proficiency in Healer's Kit. I don't even know if we even used that. I think I only had one character who was actually devoted to Danaus at all. And then you have proficiency, or you double your proficiency on charisma checks. I see that's kind of redundant, but it's what I had. I don't know. I kind of just came up with a bunch of stuff because I had, again, 15 of them, so I was just doing stuff. And they're very high on charisma, these worshippers of Danaus, because they're usually very beautiful people. Let's say, again, you start with prayers and petitions at level 1. At level 6, so 5 levels from the start of your prayers and petitions to that one god, you get the benefits of devotion to that god. So the benefits of devotion to Danaus are +1 to your charisma score. You reduce 2 levels of exhaustion on a long rest. I don't even remember writing that. Healing spells, actions, and potions you create heal an extra 1d4 plus your level. That's actually kind of cool. And then you get Danaus' Mercy, an ability. Once a day, you channel Danaus' healing and grace to your friends. Allies within a 30-foot radius regain 1d8 HP. Allies that are unconscious become stable. Allies that are afraid conquer their fear. I mean, that's cool. I don't know why I thought of that, but there you go. Danaus, goddess of healing and life and healing. All right, so who's next? Tonberlane. So Tonberlane is typically depicted as a golden dragonborn because obviously gold and treasure. So Tonberlane is the god of luck and treasure. What is he? Because so on each of these there's quite a bit of stuff, and I gave you the short version of Danaus, but Tonberlane I'll give you a little more. So he's the patron of traders, merchants, bankers, jewelers, minters. So people that make money, and then literally make money. What is he known for? Trade, money, investing, exchange of money, business, adventuring. Anything that gets you treasure, gets you money, gets you paper. Get that bread. Tonberlane's the god of getting the bread. Common symbols, gold coins, gold dragonborn. Teachings, make money, take risks, and get as much money as you can, basically. Worship is usually, again, getting money, accumulating wealth if you need to pass it on, but accumulating wealth for yourself is the main worship of Tonberlane. There's some other stuff too, but I'm not going to get into. I'll make a video for each one of these to go a lot more in depth. This is basically just my scattershot of, hey, here's my Pantheon. If you guys want to use them, go ahead. If you guys have any questions, let me know. So we'll get to that. Prayers and petition benefits for Tonberlane. Advantage on checks to haggle for price, because you already know your character's going to do this. If they're one to do this, they should be really worshiping this guy. You gain 1 skill proficiency of your choice. I don't know why I added that. 1 tool proficiency of your choice, and fluency in 1 language of your choice. I remember this now. This was basically so they can try to start their own business, and this is a way to somehow help them in doing that. They don't know that, but I don't know what they do with this, so there you go. And they have an ability called Chance. Twice a day. As a reaction, you may leave everything to chance and re-roll what you just rolled. You must keep the new roll. You can use this on any type of roll and only once per roll. Okay, so they can only use this ability once on 2 different rolls during the day. That's kind of cool. It's not really advantage or disadvantage. It's just kind of you might get a better roll or you might get a worse roll. So you can take your chances. So after 5 levels, you get devotion benefits. So devotion benefits to Tomberlane are 10% discounts on merchants who worship Tomberlane, which is usually depicted as either a golden dragon on the doors or in the windows of the shop, or the merchant themselves either has a golden ring, a dragon ring, or a golden dragon pendant. These people kind of already know, like, the way you dress, what you wear, that will signify who you worship. And if both you guys have these golden chains, you're like, I got you, son. Buy whatever you want. You get a discount. So 10% on merchants who worship Tomberlane. So obviously you want to seek those out. And then 5% discount on everything else. So everything's just cheaper for them. Selling items gets you 10% more, because selling items doesn't really get you that much to begin with. You gain the lucky feat. Like F-E-A-T, the feat. I don't know what it does. I don't know if this is it. But when you... I don't want to look it up. When an ally you can see within 30 feet of you rolls a 1 on a d20 for an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw, you can use your reaction to let the ally re-roll the die. The ally must use the new roll. When you use this ability, you can't use your lucky racial... Oh, so I think lucky is a racial trait specifically for halflings. But I took that trait and made it for those that are devoted to Tomberlane. So that's what you get. I mean, I find it interesting. I don't think I had any of my players... choose him, but oh well. So next one, okay, I think I'm gonna change the name of this next one, but Nithia, goddess of wisdom and harvest, patroness of farmers, elders, wise men, field workers, bakers, brewers, winemakers, anybody kind of associated with any sort of crop, any sort of harvest and its excesses. Known for harvest time, the seasons, different proverbs, fables, sayings, usually those imparting wisdom. Common symbols is a scythe, or like a bundle of hay, or a bundle of any sort of crop, I guess you can say. Teachings, worship. I don't really have too much on this, but I mean, it's kind of a obvious thing for people. If they were to hear something like this, like, it's obviously the goddess that's going to be prayed to by the farmers, anybody working on a farm who receives their income or their livelihood through the farming process or through the raising of not crops but livestock. Same thing. So what do you get for prayers and petitions for Nithia? Gain advantage in animal handling and nature checks related to farming. I guess it could be anything in general if you really wanted to. You gain +5 passive perception, because I feel like this is something that would be common for them. Very attentive to what's going on in the crops. Double your yield when harvesting or foraging plants. Nobody actually picked this one in my campaign last time, and I was surprised because I did have a ranger who really liked to forage. You gain proficiency or double your proficiency using scythes or sickles. So for combat. They're not that common. I don't think anybody uses them. Okay, so after 5 levels, devotion. What do you get for devotion to Nithia? +1 your wisdom, obviously. Gain or double proficiency in wisdom saving throws. That's cool. You can cast Goodberry once per day. I don't remember that one. And you have an ability called Wise Combatant. So once a day, as a target of your choice has disadvantage on attacks against you. You can add your wisdom modifier to damage rolls against the chosen creature. That's interesting. So your wisdom helps you in combat with at least one creature once a day. I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's just a different way of using wisdom, especially in combat, because I don't think it's used that often. Can't even talk. So we're in the nature domain. So Nithia is more on the side of the life side of nature. So obviously the growing of that which is nature. But now we get to the nature, in between the life and the chaos. We have Rathis, goddess of the wild and the hunt. She's usually depicted as an elf, and typically with other animals, usually like a wolf or a bear or elk or something as an animal companion. But she's the patroness of rangers, hunters, elves, forest animals, travelers, and archers. She's usually depicted with a bow. Known for tracking, traveling, hunting, eating, and cooking of wild animals. Common symbols are a bow and arrow, teeth and claws, traps. Statues are carved out of wood in the forest. So they're usually... Here's the thing, like, the forest is her temple, essentially. People will pick a tree and then carve into that tree or out of that tree a statue of Rathis. So they depict a female elf holding a drawn bow surrounded by animals. The animals depend on the surrounding areas. Obviously, it's just a way to differentiate the different areas. Worshippers usually wear an amulet of Rathis made with wood, feathers, claws, or leather or teeth of animals. Usually animals they've killed. Teachings. Everything... Oh, so I'll get into more detail with other ones, but this will just be quick. Teachings, everything kills to survive. The wilderness is the natural state of things and must be kept that way in order to survive. One must, and eventually, be hunted. Worshippers either learn to use the bow or another weapon to hunt. They may also learn to make traps and catch their meals. Worship, hunting, dressing, and eating common game animals is seen as worship. She has no temples, as forests are seen as temples. Prayers are said during traveling, while hunting, and when a hunt is successful. So, prayers and petitions to Rathis. What do you get? You cannot be caught by surprise in the wild. So, when you're traveling, at least through forest or mountains or anything that's not civilized, you can't be surprised. And then you choose one of the following. You choose an extra as a ranger, a favored beast, or a favored enemy, or... so you choose one of the following. Either you get a favored enemy, which automatically is beast, or you get a favored terrain, which is mountain, forest, grassland, or swamp. I know there are other choices if you become a ranger, but if you pick Rathis for your devotion, essentially, you only get to pick one of those two. And a favored enemy, you can only pick a beast. And then you get... Prey of Rathis. Prey of Rathis, Prey. You get to use 3 times a day and only in the wild. So you can mark a creature verbally, usually a whispered prayer, so something usually said under your breath as you're like drawing your bow or getting ready to throw something at it. Wait, so the next attack on that creature has advantage by you or an ally. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So you're basically hunting something and you marked it, you're like, that's the one I'm going to kill. So you can do that 3 times a day. And only in the wild. So it's slightly limiting. Devotion. So after 5 levels, you get +1 to your dexterity. Double proficiency in stealth checks. Only in the wild. And you deal an extra 1d6 to marked creatures. So if you are a ranger or any other class that has an ability that is able to mark something... This will help out a lot, and I did have a ranger who was devoted to Rathis and dealt way too much damage out in the wild, and that was annoying. But yeah, I really like Rathis. I think she's cool. Next one, Voratrix. Voratrix is the god of feast and slaughter, mainly the god of excess, and I kind of wanted to go with a Dionysus type feel. God of parting, not really debauchery or anything, but just excess. I guess gluttony would be the closest thing I could think of, but not really in a negative connotation. It's more of like, hey, we're partying, it's time to have fun. So patron of celebration, revelry, drunkenness, excess, slaughter of animals, butchers, chefs, and wine. Known for celebrations, butchery, gluttony. Common symbols are knives, head of animals, gold or silver dishes and cups, and wine barrels. So when there's a party, everybody knows what's going on. And everybody's usually worshipping Voratrix. Worship is feasting, the slaughter of animals for food, usually for parties. Prayers and petitions to Voratrix gain you the following benefits. When in town and you try to find parties at a tavern. Wait, when in town you try to... Oh, okay, so this is one of those things where I think I'm going to do it to each one, but whenever you go into a town, there's certain things you have to do as a follower of one of the gods. With Voratrix, when you're in town, you have to try to find parties in taverns, and you have to try to attend, because that's basically your worship. You gain proficiency in animal handling and in the slaughter of animals, which is based on your intelligence. I kind of made up something for it. You gain proficiency in one instrument and one game, mostly for the party. And then you have an ability called Revelry. So once a day, you are under a small trance for 10 minutes. For each creature you kill while trance, you gain +1 to your attacks. And it maxes out at +3. And then you gain a level of exhaustion. So for that 10 minutes, you can get up to +3 to hit. I don't think it's to damage, but you just kind of get a little crazy and a little bloodthirsty. Benefits after 5 levels: whenever you take a short rest and spend a hit die, you gain an extra 1d8, so it's just good for resting. Because it's basically just advantage to hangover. When partying in town, you gain 1d6 friends that may help or give you information when asked. So you're a party animal, you meet a lot of people, and apparently you're friendly enough to gain friends. Intense Revelry. Oh, okay, so this is just an upgrade to the last one, I believe. Okay, so while reveling, so obviously once you've used the ability, you regain 1d8 HP when you kill a creature. So not only do you get +1 to attack, you get a little bit of HP back. And then the last one is an ability called Offering to Voratrix. On a crit, so on a natural 20, the creature you're attacking, or whoever it is you're attacking, makes a Constitution save, which is 10 plus your attack modifier plus your level. On a failed roll, okay, so if they fail, they roll a d4, or you roll a d4. Okay, so you attack, they make a save, you roll a 1d4 to apply the following effect. Okay, so if you roll a 1, make an extra attack after this one. Not fun. Number 2, you knock the creature prone. Number 3, you can make an intimidation check on the target as a bonus action, I'm guessing. And 4, the HP of the creature just automatically goes to 0. On a save, you gain 1 level. Oh, okay, so I think you gain a level of exhaustion after using this too, because you're kind of going crazy. Nobody picked Voratrix in my last campaign, and I'm not really surprised. He's interesting. He's more there for flavor than anything else, because you don't really gain like super broken benefits like Rathis. But I just thought it was interesting. It's just something different. So now we're in the the domain of chaos. And again, this one's the closest to nature, so this is the nature of chaos, essentially. Maricel, the god of the sea and storms. So Maricel is kind of like Poseidon, but not really. The closest thing in my campaign to a Poseidon, but he's usually depicted as a human with a net and a trident, usually worshipped by sailors or people that live near the sea, obviously to try to keep the storms away, but they also worship him because they get their livelihood and make their livelihood essentially and get whatever they need to out of the sea. So obviously the fish obviously trade by sailing, and then they're like, hey, no storms while we're sailing, we don't want that stuff. But he's usually seen as a good god that they want to pray to so these bad things don't happen. Not really like he controls them, but like he can help subside the storms. So nobody picked this one either. I was kind of like, y'all can't pick like one of the ones I want to see. So Maricel, prayer and petition benefits. I can't talk. You get proficiency in any one vehicle or gain ocean as a favored terrain. So This is mostly if you guys have a vehicle, or if you guys... This was meant to be like a ship. Like, so you guys can sail. So one of your people will gain proficiency in sailing, essentially. Your swimming speed becomes 40. You gain proficiency in constitution checks. If already proficient, double the bonus. And you get Song of the Sea as an ability. So Song of the Sea, once per day, Maricel's followers have developed chants for sea travel and laborious work. Its rhythm helps you and your allies work longer and harder. You and your allies gain +1 to saving throws for up to 10 minutes as long as you're singing. So they basically become a bard. And I think this is why I thought of it as just one, and then at least one person singing. So if you have multiple people who are devoted to Maricel, you can have multiple ones singing at the same time, and they all get +1 for each person singing. So obviously if you have 4, everybody's using this. +4 to saving throws, that's a lot. So I find it interesting. And I kind of wanted it to have that like sailor vibe, like, hey, we're all going to sing the same song, and they're all the pirate song. You know what I'm talking about. So devotion, after 5 levels, you get +1 to your constitution, which is fun. You gain advantage in nature or survival checks to avoid natural disasters or find shelter in them. I don't know why that's so specific, but sure. You become resistant to cold or lightning damage. I think you pick one. I don't think it's both. And then when leveling up, double your constitution modifier when you're basically adding up your total for the new level. So when my characters level up, instead of rolling 1 of their hit dice and then adding the constitution bonus, I have them roll 2 and then keep the highest one and then add their constitution. So this basically would just make it roll 2 hit dice, keep the highest, and then double your constitution bonus. So they get more HP, which I'm surprised certain ones of my players didn't want to pick that one because of it, but it is what it is. So still in the chaos domain, we have, which is spelled wrong on here, it's Yogoldoth, god of chaos and fear. And the name is deliberately Lovecraftian, like the whole Azathoth and the other Lovecraftian names. I can't really think of the other ones right now. So he's the patron of chaos, nighttime pandemonium, strange events, dread, and the unknown. He's known for fear, unpredictability. Common symbols are a die, like just a regular plain die, and spirals. And he's usually depicted as what you would think of like a Lovecraftian nightmare, essentially. Just like a blob of eyes and tentacles, and we don't know what he is, so we're just going to make something really weird. It usually doesn't have statues, because those that do worship him don't really have temples, don't really think of worship of Yogoldoth as something that should be known. It's usually secretive, and it's usually for crazy people. It's like the cult of Rakdos in Magic. Like, you kind of have to be crazy to join, but like that's part of joining. You kind of have to become crazy. So teachings. I'm surprised I wrote this down. Life is random. Everything is random, undefined, and meaningless. Embrace the randomness and join it. Whatever you do must be done to cause fear in others. You are now an embodiment of chaos and fear. You expect nothing and fear nothing. Worship. Tattoos of strange things, random acts, strange chanting, scaring people and animals, yelling and roaring in battle. These guys are just crazy. So prayer and petition benefits for Yogoldoth. You must choose an enemy to attack at random, so you don't get to pick who you want to attack. You have to do it at random. You cannot attack another creature until that enemy is killed, and you must choose all subsequent targets at random. I just thought it would be interesting to see people do this. You gain proficiency in the intimidation skill. If you're already proficient, double the proficiency bonus. You gain advantage on saving throws against fear, so it's harder to scare you. And that's it. I thought there'd be more. I thought I had more. So devotion. So after 5 levels, you get to roll a d20. You crit on a 20 and the number you rolled. Okay, I don't remember writing that. Primal Roar. So here's an ability you gain. On a successful melee attack, you can unleash a loud roar to scare the enemy and break their morale. You may roll an intimidation check against the target's wisdom. On the first save, the enemy is frightened. On the second save, they will flee. On a crit, the enemy dashes away. So you can basically scare people away. That's funny. Oh, that's just on a successful melee. So that's every time you hit. That's cool. That's funny. Chaotic crit. Okay, so I remember this one. So whenever you crit, you have a d6. You also roll with that. Along with the normal crit damage and all the stuff that would go along with your crit, you get these effects. So if you roll a 1, you may disengage and move half your speed. Number 2, you take an extra attack. On a 3, you gain 1d6. You regain 1d6 HP. On a 4, you make another intimidation check to a creature within 10 feet, so it doesn't have to be this one. Number 5, you deal an extra 1d12 of the weapon you're using. So whatever weapon type of damage you're using, you can add another 1d12 of that. And number 6, you become Yogoldath's conduit. You unleash a low-pitched droning growl mimicking an angry beast. Okay, so all enemies within a 60-foot radius make a wisdom save or take a -2 penalty to hit and range spell attacks. Yeah, so they basically are too scared to hit you. So -2 for them to hit with any attacks or spells. So that's funny. I don't remember writing that. But there's Yogoldath. Churgesh. So Churgesh is the god of malice and revenge. I don't remember when I did it, but the name Churgesh, I wanted to come up with something that sounded angry. I don't really have any information on this one, but Churgesh is basically a god who you pray and worship usually if something bad's happened to you or somebody killed a family member or somebody attacked your village and killed people or somebody stole something that belonged to you, like this is the god you usually go to. Again, it's usually not a public thing, like you kind of keep it private. I think I only had one player pick this one, and they played into it a little well. I think they just mainly wanted the benefits and not really role play any of the revenge and anger that came with it. So prayer and petition, you basically get a favored enemy. If you're not a ranger, you get that ability. If you're a ranger, you just get an extra one. Sign of hatred. So 3 times a day, as a reaction, you can mark a creature that dealt damage to you. You killing a marked creature gives you 1d8 HP. I just realized like a lot of these will have something to do with marking a creature and then gaining HP back. I think people just like that, and I don't know what the heck I was thinking when I wrote this, but I feel like you should do a little extra damage on those that you marked. The devotion benefits, you gain vengeance. Oh, okay, so vengeance is based on the damage dealt to you. This is a reaction, kind of. So when you take at least 10 HP from one attack, you may disengage as a bonus action and move up to 10 feet, or make a grapple check, if possible. So this is just like, oh, he made me angry. When you take at least 20 damage from one attack, you may use a reaction to make a melee, ranged, or use a cantrip as retaliation. If your HP would be reduced to 0, make a Constitution saving throw against the damage. On a success, you are reduced to 1 instead of being incapacitated. You gain the previous effect if you want. You may immediately make an attack. Okay, so it's basically a focus band. So you focus band, you make a Constitution saving throw, you focus band, and you can take an action after this. Or it says you can attack after this. Sounds okay. The next ability is enmity. Enmity. I always get this word wrong. Enmity. Never mind. It's a word. Whenever you are attacked, you get +1 on attack and damage rolls only to the creature that attacked you. Max at 3, obviously. You lose all bonuses if you become incapacitated or that creature heals you. Now, that's an interesting one. Killing a marked creature or a creature that dealt damage to you this turn. Okay, so this is the last part of the devotion is you basically regain an extra 1d8 if you kill a marked creature. I think the HP was for this one is mostly because you're gonna get attacked. And you kind of want to get attacked. So that's Churgesh. That's all the domain of chaos. And now we're in the domain of death, which we start with Kalira. Kalira is the goddess of poison and decay. She's usually depicted as not really an old lady, but just like a lady who is hooded in a regular like dark robe, but usually has either a snake, scorpions, thorns, or something to depict like she's dangerous. She has control over something dangerous. People don't really worship her. She's mostly there for like assassins, thieves, people who want to kill someone else. And her followers actually have to ingest poison or inflict themselves with some sort of poison as worship because they slowly build up a tolerance to it, but they know what it does to people. And it's usually not like, oh, I'm going to take this poison that's gonna kill me. Like, no, it's like, I'm going to take little bits of poison that I know hurt, and then you just become immune to it. But they know how it works on other people, so they're really good at applying these things. I think I had one person pick it in my last campaign. I don't remember. So, prayer and petition benefits, Poisoner's Kit proficiency. So, you can now use a Poisoner's Kit. You gain proficiency with alchemist supplies. If you're already proficient, if you're already proficient with something that you get out of any of these, you double the proficiency. You gain resistance to poison damage. So that's always fun. And then poison applied to your weapons works for 2 attacks. Because normally, I think the rules are if you apply a poison to a weapon and you swing with it, it's only good for 1 attack. But this one makes it available for 2 attacks. I don't know where I got that from, but I feel like that's in the rules. Okay, and then after 5 levels, the devotion benefits are you get immunity to non-magical poisons. You get the ability to detect poison and identify poison used to kill someone. So if you come across a dead body, you'll know what killed him, and you'll know usually how that poison got into his system. Knowledge, application, extraction, use, and remedies of all non-magical poisons. That's always useful. I believe they did use that in my last campaign, which was annoying. Whenever you acquire poisonous ingredients, such as a venom sac, you can spend an hour to make it into a poison if you have a vial. And when you apply your poison on a slashing or piercing weapon, it adds 1d8 poison damage. If your weapon is bludgeoning damage, it adds 1d6 damage instead. Okay, so yeah. You can basically make poison out of anything, and it adds poison damage. I feel like this one was kind of weak compared to the other ones. But, I mean, it's mostly geared towards the poison. Next, we got Zaphany. Zaphany is the goddess of death and memory. She's the patroness of death, memory, cemeteries, crypts, missing persons, and obviously against death. So those that aren't trying to die, like, hey, give me a bit more time, lady. Known for cemeteries, executioners, funerals, common symbols, coffins, death bird. I don't know what a death bird is. I think it's just a raven. Eyes, skulls, and bones. Teachings, everything will eventually die. Death is a part of life and should not be denied or avoided. Remembering people is the way to let the dead remain in our world. Remember, do not bring them back. The undead are unnatural to Zaphany. You can bring death to those that deserve it and release those from pain and illness. Worship, burying the dead, making crypts, tombstones, or statues to remember the dead, killing the undead, and necromancers. So, despite the fact that Zaphany is the goddess of death, She don't like the undead. And we'll get to another god that doesn't either. So prayer and petition benefits. You gain proficiency and intelligence modifier when trying to recall information. Because sometimes my players forget. And they were just like, hey, what's that thing? I don't know. If you don't remember, your character doesn't remember. And if you want to remember, make a roll for it. So this just gives you a slight advantage. Whenever you kill a creature, you regain 1d4 HP. Because it's kind of like worship. Ability to diagnose and treat diseases. I think this is the only class, or the only god that has benefits that let you treat diseases. And then you get Zaphane's Mercy. So once a day, when making an attack, preferably the last, you declare your attack for Zaphane. On a successful, so if the attack is successful, you add 1d10 necrotic damage. On a failure, the enemy gains advantage on the next attack against you. So don't miss. So after 5 levels, you recall information at will. But it's after 5 levels, so yeah. Touch of Death. Once a day, you can cast Inflict Wounds once per day. So it's 3d10 necrotic damage. That's a lot. And you gain 1 level of exhaustion. Oh, so it's basically you cast it on at will once a day. And then you gain exhaustion. That's kind of cool. So it's just like, you're dead. And then they're dead. It takes 4 fails on a death saving throw to die and only 2 successes to stabilize. I don't like that one now. Especially for her. Like, I don't know. I think I might change that. This is all old stuff, though. This is all going to change anyway. While in combat, whenever you kill a creature, you may gain +1 to attack and damage rolls and gain an extra 1d4. Whenever you kill a creature, you get those bonuses, but those bonuses only last 10 minutes. And you lose the bonuses if you become incapacitated. So that is Zaphane. And so Vesova is the goddess of night and secrets. I know there's a very similar one in the normal D&D universe. I don't remember the name, and I don't really use any of those. And the funny thing about hers is people will make statues of her, and she doesn't really have any temples, but the statues are usually located in the shadows. Like they're made to hide somewhere. I just find that funny. A little information about her. She's the patroness of thieves, assassins, night travelers, night guards, and spies. Known for silence, secrets, nighttime shadows, concealment, spies and spycraft, common symbols, black cloaks, the moon, stars, locks, and daggers. Statues are usually made of jet or obsidian and other black stones. They're usually hidden under plants or in shaded areas. She is cloaked and has a finger to her mouth, or is holding a knife to her neck. That actually comes from an old saying. I think I got it from the Bible. The phrase is to hold a knife to your neck, and it's essentially like, you have a knife held to your neck, you're not going to say anything. So it's just a way to like, hey, shut up. Like, teachings: special things will be hidden or kept secret from most people. They should either be written down or locked away in an area you can see and access, but others can't. There is a preference for nighttime and dim light. Nighttime is sacred and seen as a time of honesty and passion. Secrets make life more interesting and sacred. That's interesting. I don't remember writing that either. Usually, worship is usually the wearing of black cloaks or for blessings and protection. They often wear an amulet with secrets or prized possessions hidden inside. They also learn a secret language decipherable with a code. Oh, okay. I'll get to that right now too. Puzzles and riddles are like prayers to them. Writing codes and deciphering those left in the world. Keeping secrets are pretty much more important than anything. The more important the secret too, the better it is. So when they become a follower of Vesova, one of the things that they are kind of expected to do is write, either in code or not, a secret about themselves or a secret they know that is very important, and to keep it inside of a pendant that they wear, or keep it somewhere on the person in a secret area. It's somewhere nobody would look. Either like the inside of your clothes or the inside of a ring, or keep it on the sword you carry around with you. Just have it like in code, inscribed on the blade or something. Just something different, because it's seen kind of as a form of exchanging of goodwill. Like, you tell me your secrets, I'll tell you mine, and then we'll just keep each other's secret. It's like a really weird cult kind of thing. Prayer and petitions, you get access to this thing I made called the Codex Vasova. And it's essentially it should be called a cipher. I don't know why I didn't call it a cipher, but it's essentially like Caesar's cipher. And I made it into like a little wheel, so whenever you come across a cipher, you can decode it if you know exactly where to look to get the first letter, and then you can figure the rest out. And my players seem to really, really like the fact that only they were able to see the cipher, and it was dependent on, like, the party depended on them to crack this cipher. And I don't know, it was just a fun little thing, but they really liked it. And then, so along with the Codex Vasova, which should be the Vasova cipher now that I think about it, you choose one of the following. You either become proficient in sleight of hand, proficient in stealth, or proficient in deception. And if you're proficient in all those already, just pick one and you double your bonus in that. You also get proficiency with disguise kit, because you're essentially a spy. Devotion benefits, so after 5 levels, you get a vetted fake identity that can be used in the world. And I don't think any of my players got to this level where they were able to have a fake identity. And then you can recognize others as followers of Vasova. Again, this is like a cult, so once you're in, you kind of know what to look for in other people as to where they would probably keep their secrets, and if they have any code on them, you'll probably be able to recognize it. So you guys can look at each other and be like, hey, I know. You gain the following abilities. So when you can try to hide when you are lightly obscured from the creature from which you are hiding, so it's just easier to hide. When you are hidden from a creature and miss it with a ranged attack, making the attack doesn't reveal your position, so you get stealthier when attacking from ranged. Dim light doesn't impose disadvantage on wisdom, on perception checks, relying on sight. Okay, so it's just easier to see things in the dark. Yeah, I think I had to pick it, and then each one had their own little ciphers they had to decipher, which they liked it. It was fun. I liked it. Okay, next one is Korth. So we are now in the order domain, but the order domain closest to death. Korth, the god of war and duty. So obviously, order, death, where do those kind of intersect? War, combat, the ordering of death, basically. So patron, Korth is usually depicted like a soldier, mostly all armored up. If he's got a helmet, it's usually closed, so you can't see any facial features, but if it's open, it's usually a skull, not really like a human, because he essentially is death, ordering more death. So he's the patron of soldiers, warriors, guards, militia, armorers, blacksmiths. What is he known for? War, honor, duty, death in battle, victory. Common symbols are sword and shield, or just fighting soldiers, somebody in a fighting stance. Stone statue of... so a common depiction of him is a stone statue of a soldier wearing a breastplate and a helmet with a sword or spear and a shield. He is standing ready for battle, and there are bodies at his feet of his enemies. The statues are often dyed red or dark red colors. Teachings, duty and honor are paramount. Duty to one's family and town, country, or gods. They are to be defended at all costs and avenged if necessary. All duties must be carried out with honor and excellence. Anything less will not be tolerated. Worship is combat, essentially. So prayer and petition benefits. Proficiency in 1 ranged and 1 melee weapon of your choice. Or you can double your proficiency bonus with 1 weapon of your choice. So this is just because I was doing weapon proficiencies differently. Because I like the old way of doing it where you have to pick the actual weapon. Not just like the broad category of martial weapons or ranged weapons or simple weapons. I think it should be the specific weapon. And then you choose one of the following feats. You get the Inspiring Leader feat, the Charger feat, or the Dual Wielder feat. And then you gain a well-known, universally respected rank that many militaries and churches recognize, because there's two churches in my world that are armies. So there's the Army of Korth, and then there's the Legion of Septiel, which I'll get to later. But you gain a rank that is recognized by everyone, whether you're part of a country's actual army or not. You still have that rank, and that rank is respected amongst other followers of Korth and recognized by other armies, but maybe not respected as much. Let's say the Army of Korth here in the US, you're a lieutenant, you go to Japan, and you'll find the Army of Korth there. Everybody there will recognize you as a lieutenant and treat you such, and you gain whatever benefits a lieutenant would have and whatever command over those people, or at least the people under you. So that's kind of how it works with this. Devotion benefits to Korth. +1 is strength. You get a crit on a 19 and 20, which is always fun. And you can parry an attack on a creature within 5 feet of you. Now, I believe parry is a reaction where you get to raise your AC against the attack being done against you. I don't really have any limits on the parry ability in this, but I would assume it's only a few times. Like, because just being able to parry every single blow is just basically adding a certain number to your AC. And although it's cool, it should be limited. Okay, let's see. So that's Korth, god of war and duty. Now, order, the epitome of order, I guess you could say, is Septiel, god of justice and punishment. He is the patron of... Oh, shoot, that's actually wrong on here. So Septiel's essentially like Korth, but geared towards the protection of the innocent, the justice being done to people, either low or highborn, punishment of iniquity, punishment of evil outright, or punishment of evil as in like demons or the undead out in the world. Wrongs that need to be made right. So he's usually the patron of soldiers, guards, people in charge of dispensing justice. So again, like the town guards, judges, lawyers, anybody. This is mostly combat related, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. The followers of Septiel, they're known as the Legion of Septiel. So they'll usually have white with the gold. You'll be able to spot them anywhere. The churches aren't normal churches. They're temples, but they're kind of like armories. So common symbols: sun and moon, land and sea, scale and sword. Statues are usually made of gold or bronze. Some are made with white stone with a gold belt. Depict a man in full plate armor, a white tabard wrapped in a golden belt. He holds a sword and a scale. Followers usually don similar plate and tabard. And those that can afford it wear a gold belt. They are always ready to fight and will do so when necessary. Teachings bring balance and justice to the world. Charity: the strong should defend the weak. The weak should serve the strong that protect them. Hate evil, demons, corruption, and undead. Do not support or oppose laws unless they believe they are just. So this actually came into play in the campaign that I ran because the king of a certain kingdom was not just in what he was doing. It was known, and although the followers of Septiel would normally be okay with someone in that position, because they saw him as unjust, were willing to rebel, and the players use that to their advantage. Worship, recitation of prayers, combat with evil, for every tragedy is celebration. This is basically like a short prayer. For every tragedy is celebration, for every war peace, for every death a birth, for every iniquity just punishment. Prayer and petition benefits for following Septiel: the ability to identify radiant damage and demonic weapons, essentially. Advantage on rolls against fear, and then you're taught One maneuver you can use per long rest. So you can either use the riposte. Whenever a creature misses you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction to make a melee attack against that creature. Distracting strike, when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, so not spells obviously, but you can distract the creature, giving your allies an opening. The next attack roll against that target by an attacker other than you has advantage if the attack is made before the start of the next turn. So yeah, you basically distract whatever it is you're hitting. Parry is the last one. When another creature damages you with a melee attack, you can use your reaction and reduce the damage by 1d6 plus your dex modifier. So I guess that's how parry works in mine. I don't know. Sounds okay. Devotion benefits after 5 levels. You gain an ability called the Agent of Justice. You can use 3 times per long rest. You can declare an attack in the name of Septiel, add 1d6 radiant damage plus your level to a successful attack. So it gives you that extra radiant damage to kill undead or demons or whatever it is you're trying to kill. And you have access to Septiel's armory, which, like I said, the churches are essentially armories, and there's always a blacksmith, and they make weapons specifically to kill demons and undead. And there are 4 special weapons called the Dawn Stars that it's a very special weapon, so it's got multiple abilities, but they didn't really ask about it. They didn't really think about it. I told them what it was, kind of, and they were just like, oh, okay, it's just a cool sword. But yeah. And they also have access to this stuff called Balance that's made by the Legion of Septiel, and the application of it can add 1d6 radiant damage to weapons. It's basically like poison. It's like a magical oil that can be poured on weapons to add radiant damage, but it's only the followers of Septiel have access to it. So Ornesis, I thought it was Ornesius. He's the god of art and civilization. He's the patron of cities, art, order, civilization, engineering, machines, architecture, bureaucrats, guards, city officials, leaders, humanity. Because he's mostly worshipped in the cities, and those that live in the cities worship him. And it's sort of like a keep the peace, keep the order the way it is for lives to continue, but keep it in the order we have it here as a city, with those on top, those that work, those on the bottom that need the help. The order works, although not perfect. It's not what it used to be when there were no cities and people were just attacking each other, tribe versus tribe. Here we have our own order, we have walls, we have our own guards, we have our own army. This is how we want it. Ornesis is basically depicted as a human, a robed human, like someone who would be in either some sort of aristocracy or some level of some position of power. Ornesis is usually the god worshipped by those who want to keep things the way they are. Keep things in like a nice, balanced, peaceful, yet normal way of life. So prayer and petitions for Ornesis, and this is another one of those that none of my players picked. Innate understanding of a city's inner workings. After a few conversations with locals, you extract names and places of importance. So this is just something you can do in case you get into somewhere you've never been and you're like, oh, we need to talk to the right people. This will help you get the names and places of those things. You get a proficiency in artisan's tools of your choice. So this is the art part, because you obviously want to create certain things that will benefit other people, and this is one of those things. Advantage on wisdom or intelligence checks to find shops, buildings, and people in town. So this is mainly geared towards those people that want to stay in cities and want to be one of those city folk that you have much more advantage in a city because you know how things work there and you're good at dealing with those kind of people. So a bureaucrat. And you have an ability called Tavern Brawler. An unarmed strike uses a D4 for damage. What does it normally use? You are proficient in all improvised weapons. Yeah, you're basically just really good at fighting in a tavern, in bar fights and stuff. Where most likely pulling out weapons and stuff is going to be a problem. So you're just like, I don't need a weapon. I got my fists and I got that chair. Or a bottle. I don't know. I don't really know why I added that one in. And devotion benefits. So after 5 levels, you get +8 to your passive perception in town against pickpockets, dirty deals, or secret passages. So again, you're geared towards city life. So you can outrun people, you can outmaneuver people while in town. I don't know how useful that will be. In our campaign, this could have been useful in certain areas. So you have advantage when making hide, pickpocket, or investigation checks in town. Again, city folk. Your first attack during any combat in town is made with advantage. And you have expertise, which you get to choose 2 artisan's tools. If you are not proficient in any of them, you gain proficiency. If you are proficient in any of the chosen tools, double your proficiency. Again, you're good at making stuff, and you're good at being in town. This one needs a bit of work. I don't know. I think I just kind of came up with stuff to have them all done in time of our campaign. And then the last one is Sodomai. Sodomai is the god of magic and discovery. I think the closest... I don't really use any of the normal D&D lore and gods and stuff, so I don't really know what I would compare this to. I'm sure you guys have a better understanding of that kind of stuff, but the first thing I thought of was Vecna, but like nice, not evil. Someone who kind of ascended to godhood, but godhood of magic and discovery. Someone who discovered their way into it, basically. And temples of Sodomai, they're not called temples, they're libraries. So I don't even think I talked about Tomberlane either. So Tomberlane, his temples are banks. There's no like actual like temple church where people go in and worship. They're banks. Sodomai is the same thing. Sodomai doesn't have temples, he has libraries. And this is where people go and they'll learn and they'll do all their fun stuff, because learning and studying, especially magic or arcane arts and arcane subjects, is seen as a form of worship. So he's the patron. Sodomai is the patron of learning, libraries, mages, exploration, magic circles, runes, magic spells, scrolls, all that fun stuff. Known for magic, obviously. Common symbols, books, wands, magic runes. I don't really have teachings or worship for him, but like I said, learning, having some sort of expertise in a certain subject, having degrees, being scholarly is essentially worship. So prayer and petitions for Sodomai, you learn 3 languages. Just right off the bat, you have 3 new languages. You gain proficiency in 2 skills of your choice. Man, this is a lot of stuff. I had one player pick this. The languages didn't come in handy that often. Neither did the proficiency in the skills. It's the other stuff that they really liked from Sodomai. So intense study. So 3 times a day, you have insight into creatures' vulnerabilities or resistances. Yeah, so this one they used a few times. No, I give you both vulnerabilities or resistances if they have any. But that's all you get. If they don't have any, you're screwed. When you level up, you may switch one spell. I think the way we were doing it is when you leveled up, you picked a spell and you couldn't switch it. And this just makes it easier to switch when you level up. I don't really know what the rules are for that, but that's just how we played it. I think that's just how I play it. I don't know how it's normally done, but that's just how we do it, and it seems to work. So devotion benefits. After 5 levels, you get +1 intelligence. You regain 1 spell on a short rest. You have advantage on spells for concentration, which again is for the magic users, so that always helps. And the last thing is you gain magical insight. You can cast Detect Magic once without expending a spell slot, and you regain the ability to do so after a long rest. So you can cast Detect Magic at will once every long rest. So, I mean, that's kind of cool. And again, I had one of my players pick that, and they were a sorcerer, so it seemed to help them out. But that's basically it. I know that D&D, WotC or whoever, has their own Pantheon and their own gods. I don't think there's a listed benefit for worshiping them or not, but that's kind of why I did it like this, because there's a tangible effect on your... Well, a tangible effect. There's an absolute observable effect given to your player, or given to your characters, when you start to worship one of these gods. And then after a while, you obviously gain the devotion benefits. So I kind of saw it as, hey, you want to start worshiping one, you can. This is what you get, and then you'll get some extra stuff eventually. But I think having the benefits along with actions that your players need to take in character, I think it's a good balance, because not only do they get extra stuff for worshiping a certain god or goddess, there's certain things that they have to do. And that I did not write down, actually. I just kind of came up with stuff as I went. But I think that needs to be more fleshed out. I think the actions required from the followers of a certain religion or a certain god need to be more clear, at least to your players, because there needs to be that sort of give and take. Like, you get this, but you got to give me this, and this is kind of what keeps the abilities that you get online, essentially. And the way I did it with my players is every level they were able to get a new god, or they were able to start devotion to a new god or goddess. Max 3. But in my last campaign, I did a 4. I had to make up a new god, despite the fact that I was like, I already have enough. Because in the middle, there is the god of creation, Eldail, and he's not that good. I made him because one of my players wanted an extra one, and I was like, sure, I'll make another one. But I'm not going to use him again. But that was my Pantheon, and let me know if you guys like it, if there's more you guys want to see, if there's ideas you guys have as to how you would do the prayers and petition benefits as opposed to devotion benefits. I understand that 5 levels is quite a bit to go from prayer and petitions to devotion. I think 5 was a bit much. I'd probably shorten it to 3 levels. But I did want to make it feel like, hey, you have to be following the practices of this god for a while before you actually get Greek, Roman. Do you guys use Norse gods? Do you guys use any of the Mesoamerican gods? Do you use any of the Native American lore? I don't know what you guys use. I'm interested to see how other DMs use devotion to certain gods, because I mean, you're always going to have the paladins, the clerics, and classes like that have whatever devotion to that god, to whatever god. But like, how does that take shape in your campaign? How does that improve them? And what are they required to do? Because I feel like the obvious lawful good paladin is just going to have to be lawful good. But what does that mean? Because there's always ways around it. And it doesn't seem clear to me that there's a benefit in just any one god over the other with the way things are in the DM guide. Maybe I'm just not seeing it, but I don't see any clear benefit from choosing one god over another. And I feel like the way I've done it in this last campaign, there are pretty clear benefits. Choosing them really changes your character in little ways, but I think significant ways in which my players are trying to mold their character, especially with everything that goes on in the world. The people they meet and who they worship could be in conflict with what my players are doing. And there's a few times that happened, but for the most part, they were able to find people that aligned with them, which is always helpful and useful. And I just think it makes things more interesting. I think that's basically what this comes down to, is all the things that I do, all the things I homebrew, is to make that aspect of D&D more interesting for me and more interesting to the players. So let me know what you guys think about this. I know this is a lot of info. This is much longer than I thought I would have to make this video. Till then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.